Most drug education tells you one thing: scare people enough, they won't use drugs. That sounds logical, but it's wrong. Because young people don't stop experimenting, they just stop trusting what they're told. And then, and when that happens, drug use doesn't disappear, it becomes hidden, uninformed, and far more dangerous. So the problem isn't that people don't know drugs are risky, it's that they don't know what's actually true about them. And if a fear-based education doesn't reduce harm, what does? Drugs and Addiction, an Anarchist Perspective, Dickie Dredd. And this is part 71, still in chapter 10, Liberation and Legalisation. Part 71 in the video series, I should say. And part 73, section 73 in the book, Education, Not Enforcement, Learning to Live with Risk. Every generation experiments with altered states. The question is not whether young people will take drugs, but whether they will do so in ignorance or in understanding. The evidence is unequivocal. Prohibition does not prevent use. It only ensures that use occurs in unsafe and uninformed conditions. A rational society would, therefore, approach drug education as civic literacy, teaching chemistry, ethics and first aid alongside mathematics and history. The aim is not to discourage pleasure, but to contextualise it. Freedom informed by care. As discussed in section 60, the dominant approach remains fear-based conditioning. For the moral panics of reefer madness, the UK's Talk to Frank campaign, the message has scarcely evolved. Drugs are danger, users are deviant. Yet David Nutt, Midford and the European Monitoring Centre for Drugs and Drug Addiction all conclude that such tactics fail to reduce harm or prevalence. Hall identifies the same pattern in Australian prevention campaigns. Overstated risk erodes credibility and alienates those at the risk. Fear isolates, information connects. When people understand risk, they moderate it. When they are lied to, they rebel. An education framework built on honesty would begin early and continue through life. In schools, drug science could sit within health, biology, social studies, teaching students how to interpret labels, recognise contamination and respond to emergencies. Community education could extend this model through peer-led workshops, reagent testing sessions and open discussions about pleasure and consequence. As Transform argues, the foundation of safety is participation. Midford and Rolls further emphasise experiential learning, first aid training, safe use practice and collective reflection as methods that cultivate responsibility rather than fear. When students mix theory with participation, they not only learn what harm looks like, but how to prevent it. Indigenous traditions offer the oldest examples of this pedagogy. Across cultures, psychoactive use has always been mediated by ritual, supervision and intention. The ayahuasca ceremonies of the Amazon, peyote rites of North America and kava circles of Oceania all modelled the integration of pleasure with accountability. Elders and healers act not as enforcers, but as educators, framing altered consciousness as instruction rather than transgression. Section 55 traced this same lineage in festival culture, where welfare teams, safe spaces and chill-out tents extend ancient principles into contemporary forms. The distinction between a rite and a rave is not substance but structure, intention, knowledge and care. Modern harm reduction collectives now function as informal universities of the body, dosing guides, test kits and peer debriefs transforming into resilience. This approach aligns with the risk environment model described by Rhodes et al., which argues that harm is socially produced, a function of context, policy and stigma rather than pharmacology alone. Education is thus not a supplement to reform, but its foundation. Hughes and Stevens demonstrated that the success of Portugal's decriminalisation stemmed from its emphasis on social reintegration and education rather than punishment. When citizens are trusted to learn, they tend to behave as if that trust matters. Experience remains the most persuasive teacher. As Marta and Alexander both argue, addiction thrives where disconnection is normalised. Honest, communal education re-establishes connection between curiosity and consequence, between the individual and the collective. A teenager learning to test substances with a reagent kit or to recognise heat stroke at a festival is already participating in public health. Each informed act reduces harm and undermines the moral authority of fear. Room notes that societies that accept managed intoxication fare better than those that attempt denial. Regulation through knowledge is not weakness, but wisdom. To educate is to trust. Enforcement presumes ignorance, education presumes intelligence. The former punishes error, the latter prepares for it. Where prohibition isolates, knowledge integrates, extending the logic of Section 72's discussion on cooperative regulation into culture itself. Comprehensive, lifelong drug education would not only prevent deaths but cultivate democratic maturity, citizens capable of managing risk without supervision. That, in the anarchist sense, is freedom, a society confident enough to tell its children the truth. Drug education doesn't fail because people ignore it. It fails because it replaces truth with fear, and people eventually see through it, which means the real danger isn't drugs alone, but a system that teaches ignorance instead of understanding. So if honesty is what actually reduces harm, why are we still afraid to tell the truth? And if that fear is deliberate, what else about drug policy is built on it? Next up, still in Chapter 10, Liberation and Legalisation, is Section 74, Community Knowledge and Collective Responsibility.